Okay, so for the last couple of 3 weeks, we've been talking about illuminating Christmas and really bringing light and brightening and enlightening our Christmas experience. We looked at Mary and how Mary received word that she was going to be the mother of Jesus and how difficult that actually would have been for her, an unwed teenager who was pregnant, and how hard that would be in her life. It actually could have caused her to be stoned to death. And so for her, that necessarily wasn't good news, but her life was illuminated in her faith and the way that she trusted God in that decision and what was happening there. And then last week, we took a look at, my brain just went blank, at the Bible. And the Bible says that we should love Jesus. Last week, I'm sorry. Okay, so last week we talked about, thank you, we looked at all the different toys and we looked at the little viewer, the master viewer, and how our view on life determines really how we do life. And when we look at the Christmas story as a tremendous gift, how that changes our perspective and our view of life. And so we looked at the shepherds and how they looked up to God and the angel in order for us to look out into the world. And so thank you guys for helping preach and to share the message today. And then today we're going to look at the wise men. And so look at what were they seeking and what were they after? What were some of the answers they were trying to find? And my guess is that in your life, you also seek out answers and try to find answers in your own life. Some are really simple and some are more complex. I'm not sure where you turn to find those answers, where you try to find the illumination to those answers for you. One of the places I turn is Google. So I brought little Google this morning, so we'll ask Google some questions. You guys are familiar maybe with like Siri on your phone or Alexa or like, hey, Google, are you on? Hey, Google. What is the temperature in McKinney?
In McKinney, it's currently 42.
Hey, so you can get all kinds of answers like, hey, Google, what is prayer?
Prayer, a solemn request for help or expression of thanks addressed to God or an object of worship.
She's smart. He's smart. Whatever. You're not gender specific. Hey, Google, what's the longest word in the English language?
According to Wikipedia, the longest word in any of the major English language dictionaries is pneumono-ultramicroscopic silicovolcanoconiosis, a word that refers to a lung disease contracted from the inhalation of very fine silica particles, specifically from a volcano. Medically, it is the same as silicosis.
It's kind of like your spouse. You just kind of, no, I'm only kidding. Yeah, exactly. Hey, Google, what's the key to staying married? Let's ask another. Do you have any questions? Get a question? Okay, we're going to be talking about think about the question you want to know. Today we're going to talk about the wise men or the magi who traveled to see Bethlehem. And they're somewhere in Middle East, the Persia area. So, hey, Google, how far is it from Bethlehem to Persia?
It is 2,294 kilometers to get to Iran from Bethlehem by car.
Do that in miles. What is 2,000 kilometers? Is that like 1,200 miles-ish? 12 to 15? Oh, yeah. Hey, Google, how many miles is it from Bethlehem to Persia?
It's 1,426 miles to get to Iran from Bethlehem by car.
Oh, sweet. Okay, any other questions? You guys have any questions? Anything you want to know? Hey, Google, what is the key to happiness?
Here's a summary from the website psychologytoday.com. So, the key ingredients to achieving happiness are twofold, yet they are really two faces of the same coin: mental stillness and being present.
Mental stillness and being present. All right. Hey, Google, can you preach today?
Sorry, I'm not sure how to help.
I'm not sure. Well, what good are you? You know you're having a bad day when you're talking to inanimate objects. Hey! All right. Hey, Google, who is Jesus?
Sorry, I'm not sure how to help with that.
Oh, great.
Take it back.
I know, it really. Yeah, that's right. So listen up, Google. We're going to talk about Jesus. So it's kind of one of those things. It's just random that your little Google can answer all kinds of your longest word in the English language to the temperature, but clearly not who Jesus is. Hey, Google, who was born on Christmas?
Isaac Newton.
Oh.
On the website miracles.com, they say, Isaac Newton, Yes, Mr. Gravity himself was born on Christmas Day in 1642.
Hey, Google, when was Jesus born?
Sorry, I'm not sure how to help with that.
Are you kidding me? Hey, Google,
How about Jesus Christ?
when was Jesus Christ born?
Sorry, I don't know how to help with that yet.
She's weak, man. All right, hey, Google, tell us a joke.
Okay, here you go. What did the tree say to the lumberjack? I'm falling for you.
Oh, that's for returning Google. Yeah, Siri knows exactly. Ask Alexa who Jesus is, and she'll let you know. But the thing is when we have questions in life, it's kind of fun. These little things are almost comical. I mean, they can be helpful. They can order you pizza and flowers and have your Chinese show up, no problem at all, and tell you what how long your traffic drive is going to be in the mornings and what the temperature is. I mean, there's a million things you can, for $30, you can get a little toy that will just entertain you and answer all of these questions. But the real thing is, I think, how do you answer the really deeper questions that sometimes we're asking around Christmas time? Like, how do I really find hope? How do I know peace? Or why can't there be peace in the world? Or why is there so much suffering if God loves us so much and if God loves the world so much? Or how can I get along with my family at Christmas time? Or how can I forgive my kids or my spouse for what they said or what they did? These little objects are not going to be able to answer those things. But I believe that there is an answer to most of those questions and many of the questions that we have around Christmas time in this time of our life. And we can find that in this story of the Magi, these kings, these wise men that we're going to look at in Matthew chapter 2. So if you have a Bible, a smart gadget, a phone, something smarter than Google to go and learn about Jesus here, we're going to Matthew chapter 2. It says this: After Jesus was born in Bethlehem, the territory of Judah, during the rule of King Herod, Magi came from the east to Jerusalem. And they asked, "Where is the newborn king of the Jews? We've seen his star in the east, and we've come to honor him." When King Herod heard this, he was troubled, and everyone in Jerusalem was troubled with him. He gathered all the chief priests and the legal experts and asked them where the Christ was to be born. I find that fascinating. Like the king that is the king over the area where Jesus is born, he's asking the smartest people in the area where Jesus was born, and they haven't quite figured it out. And then they finally did, to some degree, realized, in Bethlehem of Judea. For this is what the prophet wrote: "You, Bethlehem, land of Judah, by no means are you least among the rulers of Judah, because from you will come one who governs, who will shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod secretly called for the Magi and found out from them the time when the star had first appeared. And he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search carefully for the child. When you found him, report to me so that I too may go and honor him." When they heard the king, they went. And look, the star they had seen in the east went ahead of them until it stood over the place where the child was. And when they saw the star, they were filled with joy. They entered the house and saw the child with Mary, his mother. Falling to their knees, they honored him. Then they opened their treasure chest and presented him with gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And so you've maybe heard this story. You've maybe seen this story as far as in the nativity. You'll see three little guys right there next to the birth of Jesus. And sometimes they'll be called the three kings. Sometimes they'll be called the three wise men. They're likely a priestly group. And what that means in the kind of the day and time of this priestly group of Magi meant that they were spiritual. It didn't mean that they were holy. They obviously weren't following Christ because Christ had not been born. They were more likely like astrologers, magicians, chemists kind of folks. Like they tooled around in science and the things that they could see and sort of identify to try to find answers for the world. And they thought that many of these things like chemistry and magic and astrology, those were sort of, not they weren't sort of, they are in many ways supernatural. The things that like the stars are just so supernatural. And we have a pretty good understanding today what they're about. But in that time, why can I not speak? In that day, they weren't able to clearly identify or know all the answers that we know today. Obviously, they didn't have Google. They didn't have electricity or cars or computers or any of those things. And so they turned to the things that they tried to understand and know, which were the stars. And so you got this group of guys, these three wise men. Now, of course, there's not likely to be three that actually showed up. Everybody likes to say three because there were three gifts. But if you heard, thank you for Google, It's 1,400 miles from Persia to Bethlehem. So if you're going to travel 1,400 miles, you don't do that with just with 3 people, especially if you had some resources and some money, which likely these wise men, these kings had. They would have actually traveled with a group of people that would have helped them travel that distance. Can you imagine going 1,400 miles on like camel and donkey and walking over some fairly rough terrain, some dry terrain? I mean, you're not going to be able to carry enough food with you. I mean, just imagine if you go 1,400 miles to go visit friends or family somewhere, what all you pack up? Just can think about it for a minute. It's exhausting depending on how many kids you have. I mean, we had to buy a bigger car because we had more kids, and I know how this all works, but I didn't really think it through at the beginning. You know, like more kids means bigger cars, means more stuff. But if we go somewhere, it's maybe 8 bags, and then you got to have like cell phones and iPods and the things that they want to watch and entertain themselves, and then you got to have bricks to charge those things up, and then you got to stop somewhere along the way to get some gas and maybe some food, and so you're going to go 1,400 miles. You're going to have all this stuff just for a family of 6. Go 1,400 miles on a camel. You can't imagine. You're like, oh, I need to bring my goats so I can have a goat sandwich along the way. You know, it's not like you're going to stop at, Chick-fil-A or something along the way. And so this whole group, just imagine how crazy this is if you think about it. This group of wise men, this group of magi, they see an anomaly in the sky. They see a star in the sky, and they want to know why it's there. They think they know why it's there to some degree just because of what the prophets had written, and so they're going to have an idea of different religions, and they're going to study different things, and so they're likely to have studied the scrolls and realized that this star had been forecasted or told before about the star coming, about the Savior being born. And so they maybe had some idea about this amazing anomaly in the sky, but they wanted answers to why that star was really there. So they were willing to do the hard work to go find the answer about why this star was there. They were willing to travel 1,400 miles, likely hundreds of people, to do this long trek and distance to find out really if that star was the foretold story of the coming of Christ. And so they go all this distance to find the answer to this star. And when they get to the star and they find the star, it continues to lead them. And it says, what did it say that they found? When they saw the star, they were filled with joy. They entered the house and saw the child with Mary, his mother. Falling to their knees, they honored him. And they opened their treasure chest and presented him with gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. How awesome would it be if the answers to our questions were so clear that if we followed and trying to find the answer to our questions, if we were following some sort of whatever it was, star, if we got to the end of that and we found the answer and we saw Christ, we saw the answer to what the star is all about. How awesome would that be? Sometimes I just want the real finality that God's at work in my life. Have you ever asked God for a sign? Yeah, I have. Just a few days ago, I was sitting in my living room, and there was a tennis ball over there that our dog chews up and plays. And I was like, God, man, I'm really thinking about some things in 2018, and I'm wondering to go this way or that. If you want me to go A, have that tennis ball just roll across the floor. Do you want me to do A? Have that tennis ball roll across the floor. And I waited, and I was like, all right, if you want me to go the B route, have it roll now. How about now? The ball never rolled. It just stayed there the whole time. I'm like, come on, God, just one little sign, that's all I need. I can't even imagine if the ball rolled across the room. I'd probably just pass out, hit my head, and die, and then I'd see Jesus. Oh, hey. If it actually happened. But I just think, when it comes to stars, what if tonight you looked up in the sky and God had arranged all the celestial beings so that you see this group of stars up there, and it says, happy birthday, son, love God. How cool would that be? Man, you go to like every person who doesn't know Jesus and you'd be like, ha ha, I told you. You probably wouldn't if you're a real Christian and Christ like, obviously I'm not because I just like to win. And I'd be like, man, all the stuff that we've been reading about and all the stuff we've kind of known, it's actually been confirmed in the stars. How cool would that be? I wonder if that happened tonight, if the stars aligned themselves and it really said, happy birthday, son, love God, if anything would change in your life. I wonder if so many of the questions that you might have in life that they would be clearly answered just by those stars being arranged that way. I wonder if you would do things different and say things different and just make different choices in what you do in life. You see, because many times I think when we're walking through life, we're trying to find the answers to our questions, but we're looking in the wrong place. I don't think we need to look to the stars, but I think we need to look to the baby Christ. I think too many times in our life when we find ourselves in brokenness and sadness, or unsure what our next step should be, or what our purpose is, or what we need to do here, there, and the other, we don't turn to God. We'll maybe turn to our friends. We'll turn to like Oprah, Dr. Phil. Those folks give some great stuff, but they're not amazing and wonderful, and so much so that they can answer all your questions. But we turn to all these things of the world and we forget that Jesus is really the answer to so many of our questions. I'm talking about even in the brokenness, or the real hurt, or the pain, or the loss of hope, or feeling that you're just so sad you can't even not only not be happy, you have a hard time just finding joy. I think the answer to those questions and in those moments is the baby Jesus. And I think many of those places we would never actually find ourselves if we went and turned to Christ first. I joked about my wife earlier, kind of threw her under the bus there for a second, and then, jokingly asked Google, how do I have a healthy marriage, or how do you have a healthy marriage? Well, I know how to have a healthy marriage. The answer is Jesus. And that's not some Sunday school answer, but I know how to love my wife best when I fall more in love with Christ. I'm writing a book. I haven't started yet because I have a number of other things, but I'm going to write a book someday, probably about 10 or 12 years from now. And I'm going to talk about the 3 loves of marriage, or the 3 loves of any relationship, to be quite honest. And if you really want to love other people better, the first love that you need to pay attention to is the love of God and the love of Christ. Because the more we know the love of Christ, the more we experience the love of Christ, the more we grow in the love of Christ, the better we are about loving other people. The second love is to love yourself, and not like a selfie kind of love, like, hey, I'm so awesome, but just to know that you're loved by God, that you have enough within you that you realize you don't need someone else to complete you. That singleness is a good place to be, and it can be forever because, what was that show with, not Forrest Gump, that You Complete Me? Jerry Maguire, thank you. And Jerry Maguire and this relationship within this movie, and you got Tom Cruise, that's who's in there. Tom Cruise likes this girl, and then he's a total jerk, as well, that happens a lot. And then so, they break up and whatnot, but he really loves her, and so he comes like rushing into the house just to let her know how much he loves her, and he says, "You complete me." And all the women in the movie theaters are like, oh, not only is he cute, you complete me. That's so much hogwash. That's so much baloney when it comes to relationships. Man, if you need someone else to complete you, then you don't need to be in the relationship. Because if you know the love of God, you know that you're loved. And you know that you're complete, and you know that you're whole. Now, someone else can help grow that, and that's the third love, is loving the actual other person that you want to be in a relationship with. So you're loving God, you're loving yourself because you know you're loved by God, and that allows you to then love the third person. You see, the answer to how can I be a better husband, how can I be a better father, the answer is the baby Christ. How can I overcome debt? How can I get out of my finances? How can I deal with a life that's not going the direction that I want? How can I forgive the person that I just want to run over with my car? Not me, you. I would never do that. But maybe you're so angry or upset or so hurt, you really have that feeling. The human side of you. How do you change the human side of you? You get in touch with the holy side of God as seen in Christ Jesus. So I'm not sure what answers you have today. I'm not for sure what answers you're looking for. The Magi and the king were actually really following the star that illuminated the sky. And as they were trying to find the answers to the questions of why is it there and what's it about, as they arrived at where the star was shining down on this place, they arrived and they saw the baby Jesus. And their first response was they fell to their knees and they offered him gifts. Their first response to the answer of the questions that they had is praise and thanksgiving and worship think if we would start there in our questions, to give God praise and thanksgiving and worship, and to know that most of the answers that we're seeking are not found from a Google or from our phone or from the internet, but the answers to our question are in the person of Jesus Christ. So again, I don't know what questions you might have, but I want to take just a minute to be in a moment of silence, just silent prayer. Man, if you've got those questions like, how can I forgive? How can I unconditionally love my family? How can I care for my spouse better? How can I find just wholeness in who I am as an individual? How can I be a light in this world? I don't know what your questions are, but I can promise you the answer is a little baby, Jesus Christ. So in a moment of silent prayer, whatever questions you might have, I want to invite you to just sort of mentally fall before the manger of Jesus. And that symbolically in your heart and your mind, that you might find yourselves just in the very presence of God and say, God, I give you thanks for your Son Christ. I worship you and I praise you, and I pray that Jesus would be the starting point and the answer to all the questions that you might have. So let us pray.